Thank you, Jen. Good morning, everybody. This is just so exciting, what we are wanting to present to you today. I'm going to start by remembering that I have to introduce myself. My name is Heidi Gaiever. As I was trying to demonstrate to Jen earlier, I come from Norway. I have the huge privilege of having lived in England for a number of years, done my original chemical engineering degree here in England. And my background is that as a result of a terrifying health scare in my late 30s, early 40s, I decided and realized that I needed to change my eating habits. They were terribly poor. And it ended up finally with me retraining in nutrition, which is what I do at the moment, and work with food addiction. As Jen said, we trained together under Bitten Jonsson, and the rest is history, as they say. So yes, this is so exciting. It's also very humbling to be in a position to follow Paul Early as a speaker here. But it's also a huge honor to be speaking on behalf of these wonderful ladies who have worked on this project with me. And you will be hearing from them shortly. Before I start presenting our food addiction recovery clinical study, which is, just those of you who can say it without giggling, unlike Jen, also known as FARCS, the FARCS program, I just want to share a couple of really exciting things with you that have happened over the last days. Well, first of all, of course, it's incredible that we're doing this, an international food addiction conference. Incredible. And that is in the context of a world where we know that food is being designed specifically to hook us and make us buy more. There's no discussion about that anymore in this room. But also, at the same time, as the greatest authorities on the subject of what constitutes a disease, the APA with the DSM and the WHO with the ICD-10 or ICD-11, International Classification of Disease, do not recognize food addiction. So that makes this all the more amazing that people like, and I'm going to add to what you said, Jen, people like Zippy and Molly managed to pull together more than 40 food addiction professionals yesterday who are forming an organization and acting to start to find a family and a coordination of what is needed in this area to help people that need it. So amazing work, you two. That's historical too. Then the second thing I want to tell you is we found something incredibly exciting yesterday. Many of you know that we are working hard to get the WHO ICD committee to recognize food addiction as a disease. And they have said no. So they have rejected it, but that was just our first attempt. They have no idea how much resilience we have in this. We are just not going to let go of this. But yesterday, we found that there is such a thing as an international clinical trials registry platform in the WHO that has registered 38 clinical trials on the subject of food addiction. So talk about an example of the right hand doesn't know what the left hand is doing. It's a huge opportunity for us. So we're extremely excited about that. Then one more thing, I would also like to add a big thank you to two pioneering ladies in this field. And of course, these pioneering ladies are Bitten Jonsson, our tutor, and lovely friend. Thank you so much. Esther Gudmundsdottir, thank you also for your work with the INFACT and the Food Addiction Institute. And from us, I suppose what we're trying to do is to dedicate the first preliminary results of this food addiction recovery clinical study to the two of you, and thank you for your inspiration. Thank you. And then one final comment. There is one person, one incredibly beautiful woman in this room, beautiful from the inside and out, from the outside and in, and that is Jen Unwin. Loved by everybody, seen, heard, watched, followed by everybody, who, without her, of course, this would never have happened. She bridges so much in our lives, including that amazing bridge between her experience in academia, but also in clinical research and capacity. And talking of capacity, she is the woman who answers your text message or your WhatsApp or answers everything before you even sent it. Incredible. And for all of us working in this field that is sometimes a bit tough and demoralizing, she is that beacon, that shining star of positivity with her hope and positivity in absolutely everything she does. That's it. That's what you are to us. So, what I'm going to talk about is I'm just going to give you an introduction. This is our FARCS treatment program. Our intention here is to develop resilience through self-awareness, knowledge building, hope, community, empowerment, and practice. Practice, practice, practice. So, we are a 3-center study. That means, you can see the flags there, we set up this program to be delivered in the UK, in North America, and in Sweden. And our plan was to try and work as closely in parallel as possible, delivering basically the same structure, which I'll share with you in a minute. We want to give special thanks to our statistician. I don't know, is she here today? Christine Delon. Christine, there you are, yes. Who has done all the statistics that you're going to see later on. And to Fiona Griffiths, who is not here today, but without whom our program would be, certainly in the UK, would have been an awful lot less organized. So we want to start with a few disclosures, and we don't really have any disclosures. The program that's run in the UK, Jen and I do this entirely voluntarily. There's no financial or commercial interests on our part. Our participants don't pay anything to attend, but they are encouraged to make a donation to the PHC when they've been through the intensive part of our program. Both in Sweden and in North America, the participants pay a token contribution. Basically, those figures in Swedish crowns and US dollars work out to something like £80. So really of token value, and seen as, following that expression of what has no price has no value, maybe it gives a bit of extra commitment that people actually have to pay a little bit for it. So, no other commercial interests involved in this. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to give you a little bit of context, talk about who and what is FARCS, our best hopes, the process we're using and the protocol, a little bit about the program, how we recruit, what the intervention looks like and the support, and then of course the really exciting bit, what are our results so far? They are preliminary results, just from the baseline as we started to the results after the intensive intervention. Then we're going to try and show you some patient witnesses, and at that point I need to say two things. One, you have to forgive us the technical hitch that we will have, because we haven't quite managed to make the videos work seamlessly off this presentation, so we're going to have to switch computers, so talk amongst yourselves when we do that. But secondly, we have some wonderful people in our audience today who are part of the program and who have contributed to these patient witness videos. And I just want to say to you that we didn't manage to include all, because there are so many, but it doesn't mean that yours is in any way not a value, and we will be asking you if we can use it in other presentations later. Then we're going to talk about our next steps and reflections, and of course, how can you get involved? So a little bit about the context of the study. We have a food addiction recovery treatment model that we wanted to look at specifically for groups. So very important to us, recognizing how little time we have and how much impact we want to make, the possibility of working in larger groups and getting to more people was very important to us. So it is a group program that we then ultimately hope to be able to end up with a blueprint for that can be rolled out and used elsewhere. There is this growing recognition of food or sugar addiction as a problem. There are hundreds of scientific studies and loads of research. For the ICD, we submitted 180 research papers. For the DSM, they are now up to 400. So it's not as if there is a lack of research anywhere. But because of the growing recognition and what Paul Early told us earlier, that very direct parallels with other substance use challenges, this is something that really has to be dealt with. So what we were trying to do is to come up with some outcome studies. So what we are doing is not really doing more research in the area of does it exist, but what happens, can we deliver a better outcome if we do something different to what would be normal treatment, which would be to say, guys, you just need more self-control, just eat a little bit less of those foods, just, control your volumes. And we're not doing that. So can we get some really significant clinical outcomes from that? And one of the reasons we see this as so important is that there is really only one case study with 3 people that shows anything about outcomes. So there is a great demand in this area for some real practical clinical work to be done. As we said earlier, there is no universally accepted diagnostic or treatment standard. And one of our concerns there is whilst it's not recognized as a disease, then how can there be a treatment model that is going to be recognized to deal with it? So at the moment, the reality is for all of us that are working in this field is that it is a bit down to what we think personally. There is no standard, there's no best practice. And that's not really very ethical. So we see that as being another part of our quest for finding what works and what doesn't, and doing it in a scientific manner. Okay. Right. It's also recognized that food addiction possibly could be the missing link between what we're dealing with on obesity, metabolic syndrome, and type 2 diabetes, that maybe that's why people succeed at first, but ultimately then go back to bad habits. And then the PHC is the perfect umbrella for this. It's our safe space, it's where we feel we belong, and it's where everybody who wants to work together on this can support each other to make a difference. Who and what is FARCS? This is us. It is a 3-center project. In order to get statistical significance, we need in each of our regions to have 26 people as a minimum that remain with us after the 2 years are up. So it's a 2-year program for everybody that joins. It's a structured educational program, weekly program of 1 to 2 hours for a 10 to 14 week period before we go on to monthly support sessions. We have screening tools that we use both at baseline. You've actually experienced that, some of that yourselves when you filled in the Mentimeter that we did right at the start of today. MYFAS, some of you will recognize as the Yale Food Addiction Scale that is the only validated instrument for diagnosing food addiction that doesn't exist. CRAVED, C-R-A-V-E-D, is a tool to be used by clinicians, but also self-assessment based on the ICD-10 criteria, 6 criteria for addiction that Jen and I have applied specifically to food. And then WEMWEBS, which is the Warwick and Edinburgh Mental Wellbeing Scale, that is used extensively to look at feelings and functions, capacities in mental health studies, to seeing whether people can improve their mental health from going through some sort of an intervention or a program. We also have a common food plan. It's not actually a telling people what to eat, more a structure for how we work with food. So number 1 is abstinence, for having identified trigger and drug foods, abstinence from those foods. But then beyond that, it is primarily a low carbohydrate program, and it is really trying to focus on removing ultra-processed foods and eating real and natural foods. The structured education involves lectures, reflections, and home studies, really trying to engage people in every session. Then a stepwise addiction concepts program that we'll share with you in a second, tools for self-analysis and awareness building, and then tools that people create their own toolbox for their own sustainable recovery. And then finally, of course, that all-important building networks of support between people who are on the program, so that ultimately they will keep those support networks when we let them go after the 2-year period. This is the step-by-step program. I'm not going to go through that if anybody wants to ask us about it, but it's very much building from 1 week to the next on another step. It's quite intensive that way, but then supported to allow people to go through what bits they want to spend more time on later. The starting point is addiction concepts, so you'll see in step 1 there, and the final objective is at step 8 is to be developing our own personalized lifestyle plans with all the tools that we have provided through the program. Our best hopes. We have some hopes for now, literally as we start the program, is to reduce symptoms. We want people to be able to immediately, as they join the program, recognize that this is a disease and that there is hope for recovery. So those reducing symptoms we are looking for right at the start of the program. We also want feedback, because ultimately we want to be able to have something at the end of this that actually is a solution that we can share with others. that we can build back into the program. We want empowerment and resilience as we see people working together and working on their own specific challenges. And then we would like clinicians testing this screening tool, Craved, which Jen will talk more about in a moment. I just want to add that there is one clinician testing it for us at the moment, David Cavan, who is somewhere. There's David, who's actually testing it for us in a very exotic place in Bermuda at the moment. So we're very excited to hear from him how that's going. Anybody else, please ask for it and we'll give you the details. At the end of the study, of course, we want as many people as possible to have recovered from or to be in recovery from food addiction, ongoing recovery, and have the tools to be able to continue the process. That means we need 78 people as a minimum to still be with us after 2 years. We also want the data from Craved in order to make that ultimately a clinical tool that can be used in practices in the very short 10-minute appointments that we have here in the UK and elsewhere in the world. And then armed with all this, we want to be able to publish so that we can start to continue that awareness building. And then we want evidence that the WHO is asking for, evidence that there are better clinical outcomes by treating people differently. And as I've said, a training program that can be delivered extensively. So before I hand over to Jen to talk about our actual results, this is our process. Really quite simple and straightforward. People are self-referred or referred by clinicians. We have a recruitment protocol who says who we will include and who will not. Anybody who's interested in any of this, we can share it with you. We provide an information sheet with this self-referral form, entirely voluntary. We have our interview protocol that we share, that all of the centres use exactly the same in all of these methodologies. And we do the same baseline data collection with consent forms that we can then follow up with all the demographics and the baseline questionnaires that I shared with you earlier. So on that note, I'm going to pass over to you, Jen.
We're excited. We're really excited. Right, okay, the results to date. Here we go. We think this is the first, we might be wrong, but we do think this is the first time there's been any data on an intervention beyond kind of case studies. Okay, so I won't kind of labour the point, but this is our retention data. So we don't think it's too bad. So, for example, in the UK, 69 people actually signed up out of 78 that made an initial inquiry. those 69 people all completed the baseline data, and out of 40 people who've already completed the programme, 34 of those have completed the kind of end of programme data, and you can see the data for the other teams. Sweden have only had their first group get to the end yet, so that's why there's kind of double asterisk there, because that doesn't mean that 21 out of 54, but that's only for their first programme. A little bit of demographic data. So age kind of similar across the teams. Many more females than males coming forward for treatment. BMI, you've got it there. Craved, Heidi's already mentioned, so that's out of 6. So as you can see, and 3 is the cutoff. So more than 3 indicates a problem with food addiction. And particularly in our data, every single person who came along thinking they were a food addict did screen positive on the Craved. We've had a little tiny problem with the Swedish CRAVE data, so we're not presenting that today. We were all kind of doing this very much at the last minute as the data was coming in. The mental well-being scale, you've got the mean score there, and I've got a note here to remind myself that the general population mean in the UK is 23.5, so that you can see that people are a little bit low there on the mental well-being scale. The YFAS, the MYFAS is out of a total of 11. And those are the scores, the mean scores there for the YFAS. This is pre the intervention. BMI is not our main outcome, I have to say. We obviously take weight and height, and we also take waist circumference, but we're not presenting that today because we've had a few problems with people measuring themselves wrong and so on. We've got to work out what's going on there. But BMI, you can actually see that there is... whoop. I meant to do the pointy thing. There is a... Why is it not working, Heidi? I know, but it's gone 0. You can see that there is actually a statistically significant difference in BMI before and after. I think it's run out of battery.
I think it must have.
It's died. It's died. On all the following slides, you'll see that a dark green line means in the right direction. So dark green is good. So in this case, obviously, BMI going down is good. The light green, which you can't see as well, which is great from our point of view, is where people have either stayed the same or got slightly worse. What we thought is really nice that in studies, often you lose that individual variation when people just give you the mean. You can't see what's actually happened to every single person. So each person here is a dot, and you can see their individual results there. So that's BMI, and then let's see if I can do it like this. I can. This is the one I'm probably most happy about, because I think the aim of treatment is obviously that people have a better sense of well-being, that their quality of life and their mental health is improved. Has to be, in a sense, our main outcome, as well as the symptoms of food addiction. So you can see that there's a highly significant before and after in the UK data for mental well-being. All the green lines going up, a couple going down, and obviously we are analysing and keeping in mind people who aren't doing so well in the study, what factors might be. Have you amended that? Yes. Okay, so here's the results from CRAVE. Do you remember that they're out of 6, and you can see that a lot of people start kind of high up here. Again, a highly statistically significant change before and after on the symptoms of food addiction. And likewise on the YFAS, we're only just getting into significance there, but what I will remind people is that the wording of the YFAS is actually in the last year. So it asks about symptoms in the last year. So actually, in a way, we weren't looking for a change in the YFAS after it's about 14 or 15 weeks normally from the beginning of the program to the end. And actually people, because we don't remember, do we? So when we're in a better place, we think that actually the previous 12 months have been better. So we did actually get just into significance there in the UK. Oh, and just to point out that we've got 32 matched pairs before and after so far. So that's the YFAS. Oh, handing over to North America.
Hello, I am Clarissa Kennedy, and I am from Team North America, along with Molly Painshaw, and we were so excited to be asked to participate in this study. We were actually just kind of starting to create Sweet Sobriety, which was going to be a very similar treatment program, and so when they asked us, we couldn't have been more excited to start and join in this collaboration. And it has been just incredible with what we've seen, because I think both Molly and I would have initially thought perhaps we needed a more intensive outpatient treatment than we thought this was more of a baseline. But the recovery results have been incredible. And some of the amazing findings we've been determining so far is that it didn't really matter on the size of the group we started with, the dropout was pretty much the same in each. So people would start, and then depending if we had, started with 12 people, you might have 2 people drop out. If we had 45 in the cohort, it might be about, 10. So it just matched. And we know as clinicians, this happens in all types of treatment. The other thing we found was that we did have some individual clients that were looking for community, because we work with clinicians all over the world. And so in our last group, we had a few individuals who modeled vulnerability. We couldn't use their data for the study, but what we found is when vulnerability was modeled, the people that were new just seemed to open up more. And that group cohesiveness made a huge impact, and they created a WhatsApp group, and that community is just essential to recovery. So I will go in. So we had, the average age was 48. Again, very similar to the UK results. We had a little bit higher YFAS symptoms. And so as you can see from this slide, the BMI is statistically significant. And if you want to understand what that means, please see Christine. But it means it's very positive. And as you can see, we are looking for the dark green here because we want to see an increase in well-being. And again, it was very exciting to see that there was quite, this one had a huge increase in well-being. So yes, it again, all very positive results from pre-intervention to post-intervention. And with the CRAVE score, we saw as well that, here we're looking for the dark green. We're looking for the decrease in symptoms. And again, it's quite clear. And similar with the MYFAS. So far, so good.
So now we're up for the Swedish part. My name is Charlotte Schön Poulsen, and I'm half Danish, half Swedish, so there actually should be a Danish flag there as well. No, it's okay. It's Swedish in my passport, so I think it's okay. I work together with Frida Sandin, and we are Leva Sockerfri, and we've been working with sugar addiction and treatment since 2016. So we have a local treatment center in Linköping in Sweden, where we are receiving patients or taking in patients, both in-house and out-house treatment. And we've been working with 2-year programs already before entering this study, but we were really, really happy to be asked to participate in this, because we saw that the long-term commitment was really essential for recovery. So that was really looking at the duration of it. It was really, woo, we're doing the right stuff here. And as you see there, the general age is the same in basically all 3 groups. We only had women in our first group, and their BMI was slightly less. But if you look at YFAS below, the symptoms was actually the highest. So I think that's an interesting one. The BMI was not as high in the other groups, but their perception of symptoms were actually worse. So it doesn't always have to be in the weight and in the look on the outside. It could actually also be from the inside, right? The CRAVE, we had some hitch with the data, so there's nothing to present there. It was a bit mashed data, so we are sorting that out, and it will be presented later on. And WebS is approximately the same, and as I said, that YFAS, we were in the highest end, even though our clients were not as high in their BMI. And as you see here, our BMI is also reduced. We only have data from one group. We have 2 groups of finalized now with their first 12 weeks intensive, but their data is not collected yet. So in 2 weeks we have a lot more data, but right now we only have from 21. So that means our statistical significance is also less, you could say. The WebS, well, it went up in positive, just as with the others, and as well with the YFAS. So we saw the same pattern in all 3 countries. Some of the big takes that we have had from what we've been doing here is the big obstacles that we see with the participants' recovery or not, them dropping out or not, and them really engaging and participating. The biggest one is shame. Shame for not being able to manage food, and why can't I be like everybody else, which really is a minority that can be like anybody else. That's a different thing. So shame has really been a huge reason for dropout and engagement in the group. Hiding and not being able to really show your own vulnerability. And in Swedish we have a word for victimizing yourself. It's called an offerkofta. You know, this really wet, heavy shirt, blanket of victimization of yourself. Oh, it's always somebody else's fault. If it wasn't for this or if it wasn't for that, things would be different. Always blaming something else and not taking responsibility of your own shit. Can I say that? And that was another of the big obstacles that we saw. If you go into this, show your own, admit to your own vulnerability and take responsibility for yourself and your own actions and your own behaviors, the road to recovery is going to be a lot smoother. I think that is what we have to say from Sweden.
Okay, so just to show you some fancy stats that Christine's done for us, and if you want a detailed explanation, go and find her in the break, but we think it looks great. So it's kind of a little mini meta-analysis, if you like. You can't really lump all the data together because obviously we were doing slightly different things. That would be a bit of a weird thing to do, but she's able to do that for us. If you look at, the main thing is to look at these sort of diamonds here, if you like, where all the data is aggregated. So for BMI, here's the mean, and we've put that as 0. So long as the diamond doesn't touch the line, am I right? Yeah, as long as the diamond doesn't touch the line, we can see that there's a significant difference. So if we put everybody together, yes, overall in the 3 groups, people have reduced their BMI. As I say, this is one of the results that I'm happiest about as a psychologist, that people have a better sense of well-being and quality of mental health in their lives. Significant in the right direction. It's gone up. The YFAS down significantly in the aggregated data, and craved people much fewer symptoms across all the groups. So we're super excited about that. Now we're going to do the slightly techie thing, because really we want to see you to, hear what people had to say about taking part in the group, because this really brings it alive.
I can clearly remember the feeling of relief during that first Zoom call, to meet people going through the same thing as me and to know that I wasn't alone.
When you and I, Clarissa, had our intro conversation before joining the group, and you asked me if I thought I had a food addiction, and my response to you was, I don't think so, but everyone around me thinks I do.
I am in recovery from alcoholism, and the aha moment when I realized that my alcoholism and my addiction to processed food were so interlaced. And that, you know, a little bit of embarrassment that it had taken me that long to realize that they were almost one and the same, except for that I had to do a lot more apologizing after I quit drinking.
They turn your brain on like drugs. And like, that's what my experience was. Like every time I would have these types of foods.
Learning about the addiction cycle was a real eye-opener, yet so blatantly obvious. I knew that I had an issue with food, with certain types of foods, with overeating, but I never considered myself to be an addict until it was right there staring me in the face.
This program has given me deeper and broader knowledge and understanding why I do as I do and how to deal with my emotions in other ways than deafening them with eating to get a change of emotions.
The course gave me a solid body of knowledge that I can trust and build on through all the rich resources around on the web. I know that I'm not alone. In fact, I am in good company and no one is to blame.
I think I really finally started to sort of understand, you know, like some dopamine and so also really giving myself relief from the guilt of feeling like it was me being a failed person, and just connecting the fact that really you're just a reaction to your food environment. You're not a terrible person, or there isn't something fundamentally wrong with you. You are just powerless over Nabisco, you know, like, and I'm not even mad at them. I mean, they just gave us what we wanted.
The strongest light bulb moment was be kind to yourself. That is the biggest thing, the most useful thing I have taken out of this whole experience. I mean, I'm not to say this is the only thing, but this is the most helpful one. Because that's actually the thing that liberated a lot of my, what I now call problem attitude towards myself.
And I just like do my morning routine. And so my morning routine is like me putting gasoline in my car. And like I have to do all these things to like kind of fuel myself for the day. So like I read my big why in the morning, like why I'm doing this. I have like a whole big why that I've written. Like I journal. I make a food plan for the day. And I plan my time out in like time blocks.
I do not have the same mood changes like before, and when something happens that before used to get me off balance, nowadays I take it much calmer and think strategically instead of panicking. I feel much calmer, more secure and more stable. I am so grateful I got this opportunity that has changed the course of my life.
I cannot say I'm 100% sugar-free. I have mistakes, but my lifestyle is night and day now. And I would say that I practice 98% of the time a sugar-free lifestyle. I feel like a different human being and I am so much better for it.
I, who have a variant of type 1 diabetes, have seen major changes in my blood sugar levels. It has gone from 64 to 36 in my long-time sugar. Before this program, I had trouble sleeping the whole night. I often woke up and then my brain was fully alert and I wouldn't stop thinking. Now I sleep much better. I also have an intestinal disease and my stomach has become much calmer.
My group continues to offer great support online. Like the course, the ongoing support is genuine and kind. As I go forward on my journey, I am finding that there is much to value in my own and others' experiences. There is a wisdom from the past and a care and support going forward. I feel really grateful and I'm only just getting started.
Words to anyone who's thinking of doing this is to go with an open mind, because a lot of us are with life experience, let's say. a lot of us with a lot of prejudice and precompositions or predispositions, whatever you call those things, but a lot of us will fail if they don't go into this with open mind. And that comes in from the very beginning, because it's very difficult for many people to understand that carbs are actually a big problem, especially processed carbs, especially and if you fail on that first step of changing your chemistry, it will make everything else a lot more difficult. Because I personally believe that low carb approach that you guys are taking is the foundation. You have to take care of the chemistry and the psychology of it.
Experience for my husband and I, it took years and a lot of work, and unfortunately we did have to go through the IVF route. And when we started this program, a big reason why I felt confident is the embryo that we had transferred did not have a very high success rate. I'm very happy to say that we're almost 39 weeks and everything has come back absolutely perfect. And I have no scientific evidence for this, but we started the program as I was implanting a little bit before. And I do kind of wonder sometimes if having that better diet helped us get here.
Okay, so it is a 2-year program, and that we thought that was really important. It's no good. I mean, our data's lovely and we're all delighted and we're all clapping, but that's as who said it's just the beginning? Bridget said it's just the beginning, and we all know that, don't we? Those of us who share this problem, really, it's a lifetime issue. So our follow-up data. So we'll be doing 6 months, 18 months, and 6 months, 1 year, 18 months, and 2-year data points, and we need to retain enough people. They're
all on their honeymoon right now.
They're on the honeymoon right now. I hope you see that. Obviously, when you put all the data together as means, it kind of hides these people who are extremes and outliers. And we have had people who've, struggled and not done so well. Usually they're people who've got a lot of other things going on in their lives. They're in some kind of crisis. And obviously because we're clinicians as well, we've had to sort of deal with that separately. But not everybody does well. And we'll be trying to look at that and see who doesn't do so well. We've got a bit of an indication that people that start at the very highest BMIs are those that are struggling most in the program. But obviously the data will guide us in that. We do monthly Zoom support. That was the program. A lot of people have felt that was too infrequent, but what they've done, which is fantastic, is set up their own Zoom so that each group Zooms themselves every week, and they're starting to talk about the tools and support each other on a weekly basis. And I think every group has developed their own WhatsApps. Yeah, they all have WhatsApp groups that they run themselves as well. So the community piece is incredibly important. Yeah, so I've said that. The other thing that we've been doing is where we have a largish group, we do use the breakout function on Zoom so that everybody gets to talk, because otherwise we do have people in big groups who, inevitably a little bit shy about joining in. But if you split people into groups of 2s and 3s and give them a topic to talk about, like how's it gone this week, what's gone well this week, what are you working on at the moment, then you find more engagement in the actual sessions. So let's see what happens at the next data point. If you want to know more, come and talk to us. Support the public health collaboration who are supporting us. The guys do the most amazing podcast. I mean, probably everybody in this room knows about it, but it's the highlight of my week, the new podcast episode. Ooh, go and listen. All the past episodes are there. It's absolutely amazing, with Vera Tarman, of course. And I think that's been such a gift to the whole community that you put. It's a lot of work, I know, and you put in the work, and we really appreciate that. I have a Clubhouse, if people know of Clubhouse, or if they don't, I can explain it to you in the break. It's an app on your phone, and we're there every Wednesday at 6 p.m. We have speakers. Again, you can listen to the replays, they're all there. We have guests, or we have topics. And Anna Fruling from SugarX joins me every week on that. And Jane Steele, where are you? She's in here somewhere. Maybe she's popped out. Jane Steele joins me as well on that. Fork in the Road. So there's the Fork in the Road book. There's now a Fork in the Road journal. And coming soon with all of these ladies, the Fork in the Road workbook, which is going to include a lot of the exercises that we're all using here to help people. All profits for that go to the public health collaboration. I mentioned right at the top of the day about Heidi's project, Collaboration for Kids, which is this important topic that David raised with Paul early, which is how do we help people not to fall into this dark well. At the minute we're trying to fish them out. Come on, you can make it. But let's help people not to fall in there. So I think that's the end now. Oh, Heidi and I, again, profits to the public health collaboration, not to us. We run this course as an intensive weekend, and let me tell you, it is pretty intense. Not as intensive as Bitten's, Bitten's 4 days, but we do this over a weekend. Heidi and I up in the lakes, it's beautiful. Profits to the PHC. A couple of people here have attended, so they'll talk to you about it. We've got one in November coming up. So come and ask us about that. Thank you, and thanks to the ladies for all their hard work.